My name is Tamara Dean. I'm an Australian photo media artist. I also work for the Sydney Morning Herald and am a part of the photographic collective Oculi. I've always been interested in photography since high school. I always found that it was a medium that I just naturally was able to communicate well through. My first job as a photographer was at a place called the Steam Camera Company in the Rocks, which was one of those little places that you dress up in old clothes and kind of give a sense of being in the olden days. And it was a really beautiful first job in photography. I also was a photographer at the Enmore Theatre, their in-house photographer too. So I was drawn to those places where there was that sense of theatre and majesty. Well, I've always collected old costumes and I've always been drawn to that sort of imagery. So it becomes a part of the whole evolution. So my exhibitions are really my most personal work. I guess the work that I show in those represent the fundamental ideas that I grapple with in life, and they tend to take about a year to come around. My show takes me a year or so to build up a show. It's a process that has its own momentum. I have to have a sense of purpose in that I'm working on a series, but they're work that I have to do. It's an incredibly personal experience. Well, I suppose part of the experience of making these works is going to the bush or going to wild places. So I guess even just environmentally, it means putting myself in another space that I guess I don't really experience in my day-to-day. So whilst I'm creating images where I've brought people into spaces, it's also kind of integral to that process that I'm going to those places and exploring my relationship with them. So the photograph is a part of that, but the whole experience of being there in those places is also a part of it. Well, last year I won the Olive Cotton Award for Portraiture, which was an amazing award to win, just in terms of like the historical significance of having a relationship to, one of the pioneers of women photographers. And the other award I've won is the Sydney Life Art and About one, which also is an exhibition that I've been in quite a lot of times, but it's my favourite one to be in because you really get that sense of interaction between the public. The more that I've kind of observed how my work has progressed, the more I see it as kind of biographical and revisiting parts of my life where I was able to go and experience, I guess, personal rites of passage in the landscape, and so it's a revisiting of that for me. I have a very close relationship with the people that I photograph, whether that's a relationship that exists already or one that I create through the process. So I'm never really completely at ease in a photo shoot. I'm constantly weighing up the interpersonal relationships that are happening with myself, the subject, and perhaps them, and either the environment around them or the person that they're in the photograph with. So there's a certain, maybe a certain anxiety that I get in a photo shoot because I have a very short amount of time to shoot in, pretty much 10 minutes of the precise light that I'm after. So it's really important that I'm able to channel that whole to make the right atmosphere for the photograph to happen properly, or how I'd like it to happen. So there are certain times when I've made the photographs and I see them after the photo shoot's happened, and I know instantly that I've captured a particular kind of moment that I'm after. But I also find it quite hard to look at it objectively, probably for the first few months of seeing it. And often the way I see the photographs, my impression of them changes over a period of a year or two as well. So I might feel really strongly about a particular shot that I'm really happy with, and then my relationship with the image changes completely, which is that's a part I don't actually really understand. Whether it's getting that distance from the photograph that enables you to see it more objectively, or whether my relationship to that moment in time has changed. I'm not sure. Well, a really relevant piece would be my photograph The Bride from my Ritualism series, for a number of reasons. So it kind of takes you into quite a personal space where you're relating to the people. You're thinking, this woman looks strong, she looks young, is she leading? I mean, is she being led, or is she actually leading? And it kind of brings up a whole lot of really interesting questions about the role of a bride in contemporary society, whereas traditionally the role of the bride has been to serve their husband, and I suppose this kind of confronts those values by the way she's standing, her being half naked, her engagement and power that she kind of has when she looks to the viewer. And there are so many levels to that image that kind of come together to give it its power, I think. I am at the very beginning of a new series which will loosely be themed around relationships, but I'm just at the imagining stage, and I'm yet to take the first photograph, which I'm looking forward to. So, yeah. I guess there's one other thing that it's worth noting, and I think that the way that I've come to work with my photography is a little bit unique in terms of documentary photography today, or photo media art today, in that a lot of the work around is quite still and staid. And I think all the years working as a documentary photographer and photojournalist has really enriched my photography now, in that I've been trained to look for the decisive moment, and I can kind of create a sense of momentum in the photo shoot that allows it to have a sense of integrity, to being a real moment, and then finding that moment in that constructed reality. But I kind of keep the honesty in terms of what's happening between the people and where they are. So I think that's something that kind of makes my work different to other photography that I see around. In that little moment that I'm capturing is a part of something that's really happening. And yes, I've made that happen, bringing together the people, the place, the constructed sort of idea I'm trying to convey, but it's still a real moment in a world that I've made. People have said that my work looks quite romantic, and I am heavily influenced by the pre-Raphaelite painters. I can see how that impression would come across, and I also, because it's quite a spiritual process for me, both the invoking of ideas for it and what I'm trying to play out between the subject, I suppose that comes across too. So I've always, through my work, even when I was developing my style while I was doing documentary photographs, I've always looked for a sense of intimacy between the people, and that I didn't realise that was something that kind of was representational of my style until a number of years of photographing And it's funny, it's not something I strove to create, but the style kind of found me. And so intimacy is a really important part of my style.